Okay, welcome. I would say happy Friday, but I'm not sure if it's I'm not sure that I'm experiencing happiness, but it is Friday. So I won't demand that you experience happiness. If I'm not going to insist that I have to experience happiness, I won't insist that you must. But let's start. How do we know when we've begun? It's a useful question, actually. How do you know when you've begun? How do you know when you're worthy of beginning? How do you know when you've gotten it right? So what we can do is we can simply take action, and we can allow the action to be our guide. So there are multiple ways of using action, right? We could use action unconsciously, which isn't what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing is that we can use action consciously and to help facilitate greater consciousness, greater awareness. So let's see how that works. Okay. So all we have to do, so why I often say, let's just choose a posture, because if we don't choose, then, well, there's a posture happening, isn't there? So it's either happening consciously or unconsciously. So we can take action to choose a posture. And you could choose this posture, but just choose this posture consciously rather than unconsciously. So just the act of choosing might not seem like a big action. Outwardly, maybe nobody would know that you're doing anything. But something changes, doesn't it? It's a pretty significant thing. Then all of a sudden, what happens? Well, any number of things could happen, but oftentimes what starts to happen is then those questions start to arise. Well, how do I know that I'm doing it right? All of the doubts start to arise. Or maybe another thing that could happen is then there's oh, look at me, look at how I'm doing it so well, so advanced. Look at me. But the conditioning arises, doesn't it? Just by taking this simple action of making a choice. Now we either like the conditioning or we don't like the conditioning. So depending on what state is here for whatever reasons, because of whatever else has happened just prior to this, or whatever you ate or didn't eat, or the time of day, or the positions of the planets, or the amount of psychic phenomena occurring around you, or God knows what. All these things influence your state. And then if I, as I have, suggest choose a posture, then you become more aware of that. or you become aware of it in a different way. Now, what if I said, choose the right posture? Don't get it wrong. Make sure you're doing exactly the right one. Maybe that provokes even more. Okay, but let's not do that. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. Whatever the posture is the correct one. So you can't. That's the good news, is you can't get it wrong. Oh, what good news that is. You really can't get it wrong. So just choose this posture. And then what happens? You just keep choosing. Just choose this posture. Choose this posture. Even if the posture changes, then choose this posture. So it's an alive process. It's not some static thing that you have to hold rigidly. So you just choose this posture and then observe what happens. So you notice what happens. And if it's comfortable for you to do so, if you're driving, please don't. But if you otherwise, and if it's comfortable, then you may close the eyes. I find that nice. So there's a for most of us, there's something, some habit, some conditioning that for many of us, it's very, very strong, that can override so much if we allow it to, which is just, I've got to get comfortable. I've got to get to the right feeling, the right state. And that's why I asked that question. How do you know that you've begun? How do you know that you're worthy to begin? How do you know that it's working? How do you know that you're successful? And you can start to notice that there's this habit of trying to get to a particular state so that you can say, oh, now I've got there. I've done it. I've succeeded. Now I'm winning. Now I'm on the fast track. And that's fine. It's not that you don't, it's not like shame on you for that, but just start to notice what else is happening. And notice the unnecessary effort. So you can start to observe how much effort you make habitually and largely unconsciously until you become aware of it, trying to create, recreate, sustain, maintain this just right feeling or this just right state that gives you the sense that you're doing it right, that you're succeeding, that it's okay, that now you can finally let go. Now you can finally breathe. Now you can finally let your guard down. And then isn't it curious what's not allowed? I mean, really, take a look. If you've got this idea of what you need to be experiencing to be okay, to be successful, and then start to notice what's not allowed, and it's really fascinating. And then notice how you try to maintain this, to keep at bay whatever's not allowed. So, for example, Is anger allowed? What about impatience? Judgment? Resentment? Disappointment? You know, you see, like, are these are they allowed? Probably not. So see how you try to keep those things at bay. And then here's the real question to to hopefully undo all of that. How well is that working out? I mean, really, let's be honest. How well is that working out? Because I think I know everything. You probably think you know everything. I mean, sure, we have to admit that we don't, but kind of our way of going about life, in order to get through it, we've got to pretend like we know what the hell we're doing. I'm right, they're wrong. I'm smart, they're idiots. If only everybody could see things my way, everything would work out. Everybody could be happy, everybody could get along, everything could be peaceful, harmonious. If only everybody would be exactly like me. But sadly, they're all morons, unlike me, and therefore we've got problems. But see that it's not really true, is it? Unfortunately or fortunately, it's actually rather fortunate, to tell the truth. I'm not, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not right. So it's not really working out so well, trying to keep all of that at bay. And all of the defenses, the pride and arrogance, and or the flip sides of those, of course, the resignation, depression, and so forth. All of those things, they're just strategies that aren't working out very well. So the new approach that I'm proposing is, let's just be aware, and instead of so quickly rejecting so many experiences, let's just allow a little bit more space and be aware of the price that we've been paying for all of that unconscious micromanagement. If it's comfortable for you to do so, and, or let me put it a different way, if it's not unduly strenuous for you to do so, place one of your hands on the lower abdomen. Just rest it there. No special anything that you need to do. It's just to have it placed there. And that's the, of the two things I'm going to suggest, that's the more important. So if you only do one of them, just do that. If it's not unduly strenuous to do so, Place the other hand on the back, the lower back, sort of more or less directly behind the other hand. Don't worry about exactly the right placement or anything. And you don't have to be holding it against the back in an aggressive way. It can be really a light touch. And I'm using when I'm doing it, I use the back of my hand on the back because that's significantly more comfortable for me. But you can do whatever you want. And like I said, if it's strenuous at all, don't do it. Just notice if you're able to do that, either or both of those hand placements, just notice how that shifts your awareness, your perception, your experience, and notice how you're breathing and notice if you feel the breath with the hands and see if the hand placement and that touch can help to bring a little bit more ease into the breath. See if you can just allow the breath to travel into that area without any force or strain. So we're not forcing the breath. Never in these meetings, we never force the breath, but we just allow the breath to become more satisfying, hopefully. So let's be aware of the breath. And of course, now we've got a lot to be aware of because we're aware of the breath, we're aware of the abdomen and the lower back, we're probably aware of the hands, hopefully, and hopefully aware of the arms and shoulders, because otherwise the tendency will be to make unnecessary effort there. So let everything be as relaxed as possible without collapsing. So we're exploring that edge where we're not exerting unnecessary effort and neither are we collapsing. So I sometimes use the metaphor of riding a wave. So there's a very small amount of responsiveness that's necessary in order to ride that wave, because of course the breath moves the body. So the body has to adapt to that movement in order to ride the wave without falling in any direction, to maintain that balance. And just be aware of whatever happens. So I notice, personally, I notice a little bit of agitation, a little bit of impatience. Those are just labels, of course, but they point to the experience. So just notice whatever you notice and then start to be curious about what you do. How do you typically, habitually, mechanically react? So whatever it is that's arising in your experience, whatever labels you apply to it, whatever associations you have, notice those, notice the judgments, notice your reactions, notice the compulsions. If you have your hands placed Try reversing them. So if you had the right hand, wherever the right hand was, put it on the other, put it, if the right hand was on the front, put the right hand on the back, and if the left hand was on the back, put the left hand on the front, or however, just switch them around just so that we can even things out. Notice how that changes things. That's different. And does this placement of the hands allow you to let go of something that otherwise you were holding on to? Hopefully it does. And be aware of that and then allow that to continue to be released so that you don't re-engage the unnecessary effort. Let the face be soft and don't force the breath. Let the breath be gentle and natural. So if you have been in the habit of practicing breathing, then probably there's some degree of effort that you habitually exert that you don't need to. So just be aware of that and let it become gentler. And then for all of us, there's some habits of holding or interrupting the natural breath at certain points. And be aware of that and be aware of what's happening in the whole of your experience at that moment. So the thoughts, the sensations, the interpretations, the judgments, opinions, memories, thoughts. Not to judge it or fix it, just to be aware of it. The awareness is key because the awareness is the solvent. So can you allow the exhalation to be satisfying and complete without squeezing? Can you let the inhalation be satisfying and complete and not resist the increase in pressure? Because there's an increase in pressure. So you can notice how your nervous system interprets the increase in pressure, what it habitually does, how it reacts, probably by meeting that increase in pressure with more attention. But see that that's not necessary, that there's actually a natural intelligence in the body, in the elasticity of the soft tissue and in the structure of the bones that totally has this. So you can just observe what it provokes in you, that increase in pressure, the decrease in pressure as there's this natural flow of the in and out of the breath. It provokes certain state changes in you. And you have habits of reacting to that. And you probably have labels for that. You call it anxiety, anger, frustration, disappointment, discouragement, on and on and on. You can start to see how when these aspects of experience are kept at bay, that we're doing that with our whole being. So we're doing that not just mentally or emotionally, although certainly mentally and emotionally, but also physically. creates a vicious cycle, because then there's excessive muscular tone. There generates knots and habits in the soft tissue. Also interrupts and alters the breath, which changes the biochemistry of the body. So we feel more of those feelings more often, and then we're working harder trying to keep them at bay. So here we're reversing that through awareness, and by allowing ourselves to just breathe through the experiences without interrupting the flow, without straining. Then you can relax both hands and let them come to rest in some even way, however is most comfortable for you, in the lap or on at your sides, or however works for you, depending on how you're oriented. And see if you can continue to allow the breath, and see what new awareness has awakened in you. And can you continue to allow that awareness so that you can be aware of those compulsions, those habits of unnecessary effort, tensing, squeezing, collapsing, straining, and just soften and trust in the inherent support. So that support is under you, and it's also inherent in you, in the bones and also in the soft tissue, so that that natural elasticity is also an expression of that support. So you can trust in that. You can allow yourself to be breathed, so that as you're expanded and that pressure internally increases, you can allow yourself to become more aware of that support in the elasticity of your body, so that rather than trying so hard to contain it, you can just trust, release into that support, into the elasticity of the soft tissue, trusting, surrendering, knowing that it's got this, it can do it. And notice what that provokes in you when you really start to soften and release into that and trust that support manifesting in the elasticity of your soft tissue, so that you don't have to strain against the breath. What feelings arise, what sensations arise, what thoughts arise, just be aware. And here, be gentle. So we're not straining, we're not forcing, we're not pushing, but we're not shying away either from the edge, because there's an edge there where we habitually shy away because we say it's too risky, too uncomfortable, too scary. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think that. I don't want to experience that. It might hurt me. So be very gentle, but play with it. Let yourself experience this with an ever expanding faith and trust in the inherent support that's here, that you actually experience. It's a real thing. It's not made up. You're actually experiencing it. It actually is holding you. Let's do a little bit of sound work. So we've been doing this recently, and I know that for some of you, it can stir up a lot. So be aware of what your current level of okayness is for introducing sound work. Don't overextend that. So sound work provokes a lot of change for you, and that change is too uncomfortable, then do less. And let's place one of the hands on the chest. Still aware of the breath, and just notice what the hand placement does in terms of your awareness and how that can actually change the breath. Hopefully you start to notice that you can relax the chest more just with that awareness produced by placing the hand there, so that your breathing becomes a little freer. See, sometimes constraint, the hand placement puts a little bit of constraint. Sometimes constraint is really, really helpful, so that we don't have to create our own boundaries. We're aware that there are boundaries that actually hold us rather than limiting us. They support us. So on the next inhalation, at the top of the inhalation, pause for just a second and then hum with the hand remaining here, and only for as long as is comfortable for you. So notice how that sound also increases your awareness of the subtler dimensions of your experience that can allow you to further release things that you hadn't been aware of. Maybe you become more aware at the top of the chest, the bottom of the throat, and the shoulders. Wherever you become more aware, notice how that awareness allows you to further release and soften. And let's do that a few more times at your own pace, just with your own breath and to your own level of comfort. So don't overextend. And if you have any doubt, then just pause and make sure that you feel comfortable and stable before you do another one. But for those who are confident, we'll do a few more. Then release the hand and just notice those changes. Let's allow those changes to integrate. So most likely produce some changes into the breathing. So you may notice that your alignment has changed and that the volume of the breath may change. If so, that's totally fine. Don't try to alter it. Even if it seems that now your breathing is shallower, that's okay. Whatever the case may be, just be curious about the newness rather than judging it. Just remain with the newness and keep softening any unnecessary effort that you become aware of as you just allow yourself to be breathed for a few more breaths here. Let the face be soft and the tongue be soft. And then let's do that again with another variation. So let's this time place the other hand on the chest. So if you used the right hand before, or use the left hand this time, or the other way around. And again, you should be honest with yourself and don't overextend yourself. If that was more than enough humming for you, then don't do more. That's totally fine to rest. You don't need to do anything. But for those who would like to, we'll also take the other hand and place that on the throat. So just gently place that on the throat. So you have one hand on the chest and one hand on the throat. Let the face be soft. So obviously, hand on the throat should be gentle so that don't have a sense that you're choking yourself. But do let it be actually making contact with the throat. And then we'll hum with the hands placed here. So the same basic thing we just did, but with the hands placed in this way and at your own pace, and up to 3 times, only as much as is appropriate and comfortable for you. And let the sound and the vibration and the hand placement help you to soften and release and come into a better alignment without trying, but just becoming more aware and softening. And then release both hands and just allow this newness to integrate for a few breaths. You may notice that this has opened up the throat and the chest, so it may seem unfamiliar to you. You may feel more exposed than you're accustomed to. You may not, of course, but it's a possibility. And if so, then just notice that and don't try to fix or adjust anything. Don't try to get back to what you think you're supposed to be like. Just allow yourself to be open to this and notice what it provokes in you, and keep surrendering and releasing any unnecessary effort. So it might expose or reveal to you some habits in the front side of the body or in the back side of the body or anywhere really, but allow that awareness to be your guide rather than be shying away from it or being fearful of it. Let it guide you to discover where you're still making the unnecessary effort and how you've been straining unnecessarily, and experiment and explore with softening, releasing and surrendering, so that you're allowing yourself to be held by the support that's here, both the support that's under you and the support of your own body, so that the structure of the bones and the elasticity of the soft tissue are doing their work so that you don't have to work so hard. Let the face be soft. If you're like me, you might find you start squeezing your face. Let the tongue be soft. Tongue relax and spread in the lower jaw. And in a culture that's so oftentimes values big displays, outward displays, we can be in the habit of devaluing the subtle. And so we may have judgments or opinions that this kind of subtle exploration couldn't possibly give us the benefits that we sometimes so desperately desire. But it really can, because awareness is the key. The awareness is what's the only thing that can actually produce real lasting change, because everything in our experience is mediated by the nervous system. So when we work at the subtler levels of the nervous system, we can produce an enormous amount of change. But we have to allow for that change to integrate. So we need to be open and receptive and just allow whatever arises. So all kinds of things can come up, all kinds of feelings, emotions, sensations, thoughts, memories. And you may think you like them or that you don't like them, and it doesn't really matter. All that matters is just that you give this space to the experience, because it has to flow so that there can be a, a proper integration. Otherwise, all the clutter just gets stored back, shoved back down into the wherever it can be stored in the body mind. So here we want to give the space so that there can be flow. And just for this time, just don't judge. Don't be unnecessarily fearful about anything that comes up. Just allow it and reassure yourself that you're safe in this moment. You're not doing anything dangerous or aggressive. You're just resting and allowing. And your feelings and your thoughts and your memories and sensations can't hurt you. They only hurt when they're not given space to flow and when the integration is stymied. So just continue for a few more moments to rest with awareness. So you're not collapsing or zoning out. You're just remaining aware, present to your experience, and releasing all the unnecessary effort. So you're letting go of whatever gripping, tensing, or armoring, or strategizing may come up, and just allowing the thoughts, feelings, sensations, and the rest of the experience just to be here, to come and go as you breathe. And don't forget about the backside of the body. Sometimes we forget about the backside of the body. You can also release the unnecessary effort there. Be surprised how much you can release, especially after the humming, which really brings things into alignment. So much of the strain in the backside of the body is just a reaction to the strain on the front side of the body. So when we open and soften and release on the front side of the body, we can also really quickly and easily release on the back side of the body, but we have to just be conscious of that. And let's slowly start to conclude the formal inquiry for today in a similar way to how we usually do. So we've taken all of this time to cultivate this awareness and this flow and wellspring of energy. And we want to allow that to really integrate at all levels of our experience, both inwardly and outwardly. So let's start by consciously directing the flow and energy within in blessing for the inner body to help to restore and expand our well-being and health inwardly. So, and remember that your intention is all that's necessary. You don't have to have the just right feeling or whatever you think you might have to. Just have the intention to bless all of your organs. Just have that intention to bless your liver and your intestines, your stomach and spleen, your heart, your lungs, your brain, your reproductive organs, and bless your bones and marrow and your muscles and connective tissue. And all of your circulatory system, lymphatic system, all of the nerves, bless your entire inner body, bless your skin, bless your thoughts, your emotions and sensations and feelings, bless your memories and your imagination, and bless your home, bless your friends and family and loved ones. If you have any pets, bless your pets. Bless your neighborhood and all who live in your neighborhood, human and non-human, plant and animal, mineral, water, air. Bless your country and your country's government, and all who work in the government. Bless all who work in all organizations so that they can do their very best and working for good in this world to bring about greater harmony and understanding and peace and kindness and generosity. Bless this entire earth from the very core to the outermost reaches of the atmosphere. Bless the sun and the moon and all of the planets in the solar system. And bless this entire universe and all universes, all beings everywhere. And then again, become aware of your body, your physical body, and we'll gently scan from head to toe. Be aware of the scalp, the ears, the forehead, the back of the head, the eyes, the nose, the tongue, the lips, the chin, the throat, the back of the neck. Be aware of your shoulders and your upper arms, and your elbows, your forearms, your hands and fingers. Be aware of the chest and the upper back. Be aware of the abdomen and the lower back. Be aware of the buttocks, the thighs, the groin, the knees, the lower legs, tops of the feet, the toes, and the soles of the feet. Be aware of the entire body from head to toe. And slowly move your fingers. You can take a few more gentle, relaxed breaths. And then when you're ready to begin doing so, you can slowly and gently begin to open the eyes. There's no rush to do that. Remember that it's very helpful to open the eyes slowly so that you can integrate the inner and the outer more smoothly. Fling the eyes open too quickly, it can be jarring. So in just a moment, I'll end the recording of the formal portion, and mostly for the benefit of those who are watching the recording on YouTube, just want to remind you, it's a useful reminder for all of us that whatever happens through the rest of your day or week or whatever, or I guess it's the weekend coming up, uh, that it's for good, it's part of the healing process. So just like we did here today, you can do the same it's very good, useful to do the same in the rest of your life, which is just to be aware of your experience and notice that you've got judgments about it, but you don't have to believe the judgments. And if you can remember that it's all part of the healing process and that it's for good, that will be really, really supportive, because it will help you to come back in touch more quickly with the support that's here, that's really holding you and supporting you. Because our minds, our conditioned minds, tell us something that's not actually true, which is this shouldn't be happening. This is bad. This is a problem. This is unacceptable. That this is proof of something that where we're failing, or life is failing, or it's unfair, or whatever the case may be. But it's really helpful to remember that that's just the conditioned mind. And if we believe that that's the whole truth, then we'll keep doing what we've been doing, which just keeps us stuck in the same patterns that reinforce those negative perspectives. Then we just start to have this abundance of evidence that life is no good, life's not fair, life is hostile, I'm always going to suffer. And we just start to believe it more and more and more. So we want to reverse that. And the way to do that is we have to first, is just as an act of faith, because trustworthy teachers have told us so, that this is our part of the healing process, that this is actually good. We just don't yet see it. And so then we just can come back to recognizing what is it that I'm doing that is voluntary or can become voluntary, so I can voluntarily release that. And awareness of how I'm breathing, awareness of how I'm restricting the breath, awareness of how I'm rejecting certain experiences or aspects of experience because I have habits of doing so, justifying that as it's too much, too scary, too bad, too awful, too whatever. But through that awareness, it's possible to realize, well, actually, what's really happening is I'm just holding the breath, I'm turning the breath unnaturally, I'm squeezing, I'm gripping, I'm tensing, pushing the tongue too hard against the roof of the mouth, or furrowing the brow, or contracting on the in the chest or abdomen or whatever, and just be aware and then release those habits, and you'll see that actually, truthfully, things improve, just not in the way that you thought, but in a much better way. So be gentle, be loving with yourself, be kind to yourself, nurture yourself, take good care of yourself, and get support if you need it. You can always reach out to me by email. Okay, so I'm going to end the recording now.